That is true to form for me. About a year and a half ago, my mother-in-law moved in with my wife and I and my then 6-year-old daughter. So this is something that I actually live every day. I'm actually writing a book about this experience because when I tell people, they said, Mike, you have to write this down because it sounds like a sitcom. We would not believe it if you didn't tell this to us. And I'm entitling it The Blended Family, The Sandwich Generation, and The Side of Fries. And the side of fries are for all of those unpredictable things that I sometimes walk in on, or some things that I never predicted would ever happen at all. And what I can say, excuse me, in terms of the positives about it is that having my mother-in-law live with us, I was able to learn more about her, learn about her relationship with my wife, and also learn about myself, and also see my daughter grow up in a way that a lot of kids don't have that opportunity when you have someone, an elderly family member residing with you. And I definitely learned my patience, and I learned, just how much you can give when you think you're totally out of energy to really pretty much put your last into it to give as much as you possibly can in order to help someone out. I mean, a lot of us say that, hey, we are kind and we are respectful to elderly folks, and we want to give them the best respect as possible. But when you have someone in your house and you're charged with the responsibility to provide care for them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's when you're really being put to the test. That's where you put your money where your mouth is. And it definitely requires a lot of assistance, because just with my daughter, for my wife and I, to identify childcare, rather, that can be difficult. So it's even that much more difficult to find care for my mother-in-law as well as my daughter when we just want to go out have a night out on the town, or if we want to go out of town. Like, how do we navigate that, and how do we approach that? So before I jump into the presentation, I just wanted to go around and just hear a little bit about, in terms of just where do you work and what made you choose this particular training. And I know that it may be an overwhelming number that today is October 31st, and I totally get that, and I don't personalize it at all. But I also want to ask you guys about yourself, because I really think, just as social workers, networking is huge with us, and I think that we just have over 1,000 years of knowledge right in this room. It's only about 13, 14 of us within this room, but collectively we have so many years, professional years of knowledge, and I just like to have folks introduce themselves so that we can find out what others are doing, and then I encourage you at the end of the presentation to exchange cards, and we can take it from there. So I'll start with the ladies here. I'll start with you.
Good morning. My name is...
One presentation I did, folks said, I didn't get to talk about what I've experienced. So I like to start it off to really have folks to share about their own experiences, because, again, this can be very sensitive to so many people. And it helps me as I move forward with this presentation, because, I was coming into this thinking I was the only person who was in the sandwich generation. But as you can hear from your fellow participants, that, I'm totally wrong. What the data says is nearly 10 million adults are now raising and supporting kids and an elderly adult. Over 10 million, right? While giving a financial hand to an aging parent. So raising your child, children are more expensive right now. I already shared, my daughter goes to the Waldorf school. She's only in the 2nd grade. I've already spent more for her education than I did for undergrad and graduate degree put together, and she's only 7. So it's just getting that much higher. So to have an elderly person that you're responsible to provide care for also contributes to that financial burden as well. So the following training is to help clinicians, to help you understand, what are some of the techniques that you need to have to help other individuals, like most of us in this room, to help themselves as if they are caregivers, and how to balance that. Because what I find is that you're constantly doing a balancing act every day. So there's not like a silver bullet in terms of how to deal with this. There's no manuscript. It's nothing like having a child. They say the child comes into this world and they don't have any instructions. Well, I think that it's the same way when you have an elderly family member, or any family member for that matter, come and reside with you. Because again, you can have a really great relationship with someone until they live in your home, and then that's when you really get to know the crust of that person and what they like and what you don't like and so forth. So here are the objectives. We're basically going to define the sandwich generation and really look at that to say, hey, what does that really look like on a day-to-day basis? Understand the factors which created the sandwich generation. So how and when did this whole sandwich generation start? Because we can see this evolution happening right now, but when did it start? And address the challenges and the emotional effects of caregiving, because again, it's indeed an emotional roller coaster that I know that I go on every single day. And even when I'm not there, like I'm in this training right now, I'm wondering what's going on with my mother-in-law, because I work for myself. I'm that individual that has to constantly juggle responsibilities with the babysitter, make sure she goes home, and that I go home and provide a meal in the middle of the day, and in the evening time, my wife makes sure that she takes her 6 different medications. Right, and that's just a huge responsibility, because if she doesn't take those medications, then we can definitely see the effects of her not taking the medication, and we have to deal with that. And so most of the time, it's not fun. It's not fun with the things that we deal with. So we're going to review some different coping skills and some strategies in terms of how to manage and provide this assistance to multiple generations, because that's what we're serving. And lastly, we're going to talk about end-of-life care and funeral preparation, because most of the time when we're talking about sandwich generation, it's more discussing it, reviewing it from an acute perspective, but from a long-term perspective. Funeral preparation is definitely something that a lot of us don't think about, right? And I mean, with my mother-in-law, her plan is that she has already donated her body to science. So basically, once she passes away, and 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to be at my home. The plan is for all of my wife's siblings and other family members to come to the home, if they do so choose, to have a moment of solitude to say goodbye to her. And then we make that phone call, and then they come and they take her body, and we won't see that body again. And then we just have a memorial, and she has a will, and she's already given her financial contributions to all 12 of my wife's siblings, because my wife's the youngest of 13. But we just rolled the dice, and we got stuck with my mother-in-law. So that's our plan as well. So
my brother donated his body, and 2 years later, a box came in the mail with his remains. So if you don't know that's going to happen, it won't happen.
Okay, wow, okay. That's great to know, because I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's bizarre, really.
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
There's some law in many states that says that you cannot, I mean, the family may do it, but the institutions out there that deal with these things, they can't get rid of those. They keep them forever. Down in
They're in boxes and have assigned alphanumeric numbers. And
right, if you change your mind 20 years later, say, I want the ashes, they're there.
Right.
I was amazed.
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So who is this family? Who is this sandwich generation? Traditional people who are raising their children and caring for an aged loved one at the same time. Or you have the club sandwich, which is people who are caring for 3 generations at one time. So it could be parents, grandparents, and young children, or it can be parents, young adults, and their children. I mean, believe it or not, I'm a grandfather, right? Who would have thunk it, right? I'm 41 years old, but my wife has a 23-year-old son who has a 1.5-year-old son. So I am a step-grandpop, right? So it took me some time to really get adjusted to this, because I said, hey, I just have one leg out of college, right, and I'm already a grandfather. But just different situations and choices, and thankfully for me, he lives in Atlanta, so he's not in my house. But if he was, I would be in that club sandwich, which is too heavy for me, and plus I'm a vegetarian. Okay, so that's a joke. So open face. So anyone else involved in caring for an elderly person. So, for example, if you had to provide services or caretaking services for a uncle, an aunt, friends, family members, cousins, and siblings, and so forth, that would fall into the open face. So generation or situation. right? Some research suggests that sandwich generation is more of a situational type of experience versus a quantifiable age group that we normally associate it with. But generally, members within the sandwich generation range from 20 years old to 60 years old, and the challenges they face span based on their income and geography. So it's not just, you don't have to be in one social demographic to be a member of the sandwich generation. Is it the sandwich generation? Is it good or bad? Caring for parents in particular can be unexpected and unpredictable. My wife and I, a year and a half ago, we had no clue that we were going to be taking care of our mother-in-law. She just had celebrated her 85th birthday, and we went out to dinner. There's a ton of family there. One day, we get a call from the housing unit where she resided, and it was a maintenance person. And they said, well, is anyone related to Blanche Blackwell? And my wife said, yeah, that's my mom. They said, well, she had a fall today. And we realized that she was having falls and bumping her head, and my wife was going to the home, going to her apartment and feeding her and bathing her and taking care of her. And for my wife, it was very stressful, and also for myself, because she was in between my mother-in-law's apartment and our home. And my daughter wanted mom, and I wanted my wife, and found ourselves going to the apartment. We were in between our house and my mother-in-law's apartment, and it just made sense at the time to just move her in. Because we thought at the time, that she was on her last days. When she moved in to our house and we fed her on a regular basis, she put on another good 10, 15 pounds. And guess what? She started living again. And but she had totally embraced that whole thought that this was going to be her last days. And so she was depressed. She just laid in the bed all day, all the time. And we just tried our best to get her out of the bed and get her active, and it was a good experience for my daughter because for one, she's the only living grandparent for my daughter. And if you have small children, for those of you who are experienced this sandwich generation, if you have small children, they can really get them up and active. They can really be bossy. They can really get them just engaged in the whole living again. And that's what I think that my daughter was able to provide to her. So for the sandwich generation, there are some negatives with it as well. We are inclined to exhibit the following types of behaviors. We are less likely to check the food labels when we're going grocery shopping. And I think that can be attributed to trying to find what's the most cost-effective food in some instances. We're less likely to choose food based on health value, but more on the financial value. And we're less likely to use seatbelts because we are going from one activity to another activity, or a doctor's appointment to another doctor's appointment. If it's within the neighborhood, then a lot of folks choose not to put the seatbelts on. Also, folks smoke more frequently who are members of the sandwich generation. And lastly, they exercise less because the time is spent on somebody else. And we already know this. I mean, as social workers, we are great with taking care of everybody else except who? Except ourselves. Most folks say, who want to have a workout regimen, they don't work out because they don't have what? Time. So having a family member who is elderly, it definitely takes from that time that you have to take care of yourself as well. So the average woman, here's just some facts about caregivers. It says the average woman spends 17 years raising children and 18 years supporting her aged loved one. So that's like half your life. 64% of caregivers are employed full-time or part-time. An estimated 7 to 10 million adult children are caring for their parent from a long distance radius. And 69% of caregivers say that frustration is their most frequently felt emotion, right? Constantly just feeling frustrated, particularly if you have siblings in a large family and you have other folks who can contribute to help you and to provide you some respite. But when they don't, that frustration definitely kicks in. And more people enter nursing homes because of caregiver burnout than the worsening of their condition. And I think that's so true, because my mother-in-law, does she need to go to assisted living? No, not necessarily, but we are so burnt out that we can't, because it just takes so much from our time that it's taken away from our family. And I think that for my wife and I, we feel that she's experienced life, right? She's almost 90 years old. She's done what she wanted to do with her life. It's like now this is our chance. It's kind of like how we're looking at it. So how do we get sandwiched? People are living longer. 71% of baby boomers have at least one living parent. Women make up a much larger segment of the workforce than in previous generations, and couples are waiting longer to have children. My wife, she already had a 14-year-old. Well, he was 11 when we met, and when he was 14, that's when we had my daughter, and that's why, thus, me being the grandparent, right, by default. But there is a shortage of caregiving workers, and the cost of care of aging parents is huge. I mean, it's about on a continuous between $5,000 to $10,000 a month. My mother-in-law has about $150,000. So with the naked eye, you said, "Wow, that's a pretty good chunk of change if she wanted to retire." But no, with prices such as $5,000 to $10,000 a month, that would be gone in the snap of a finger. Some more stats that I just wanted to share: 75% of caregivers for older adults are women. Typical sandwich generation members are working females caring for both aging parents as well as aging children. Differences in terms of men and females for gender specifics is the men generally provide the financial support. Women provide that emotional support in the daily tasks. But I'm here to stand by that to say that that's not always true. Right, because men are cooking and men are cleaning and doing all of the same things that women are doing, because just how the landscape of our culture has totally changed. Now you have men that are staying home, that are stay-at-home dads, and a mom may have more opportunities and so forth. And thank God that I have a flexible schedule so that I can be there to make that balance with my mother-in-law as well as myself and my daughter. So stress in the family. In the sandwich generation. Why do I keep saying family when I say sandwich? I don't know. But basic disruption. So it basically interferes with the regular flow, the routines of the home. Attempt to help caregivers parent by providing advice. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that one of the biggest obstacles that we experience, right? Have my small daughter, and I'm learning how to be a dad by giving her rules and giving her regulations to my daughter. But then we have a mother-in-law who said, "No, you don't need to do it that way. You need to do it this way. Why are you doing it that way?" And that can become frustrating. Whereas, I know that in my mind, I said, well, if she would just do these things right here, everything would be okay. But she's going to be her own person, and she's going to be who she is, regardless of what I want or what my wife wants. Monetary concerns. The elderly parent obviously adds more to the bills, right? So we're talking heat, hot water, electricity, food, gas for transportation, all of those things. And one of the things with my mother-in-law is she came from a situation where she resided in an apartment where all of those things were free, right? So water bill, electric, heat, those things were free. So we would go to her house, and we would always complain because the heat was on 85 every day. It's like, wow, I'm melting in here. But she didn't have to pay for that. So now we have a 2,000 square foot house, and you have the heat on all day. You can't do that. Or you're washing your underwear in the sink and leave the faucet going on. That's adding on to the water bill. So just really constantly having to remind her. But it's difficult because she was in that type of situation for 40 years where she didn't have to pay for those bills as well. Stress. It can be a tremendous strain on the relationship. If it's a couple, a husband and wife, it can definitely put a lot of stress on the marital relationship. For my situation is good because my wife at least knows that she's stressed and she knows what her mom is bringing. And I think it's different I think it brings more stress if you have a situation where one of the spouses feels that it's not that bad, or they could sort of compensate or don't pay attention to some of the shortcomings of the family member that's residing with you. Workplace issues. Some caregivers take extended time to or just take time off during the day to go home to be with their elderly family members. I did a benefits fair a couple of weeks ago in Largo, and I was doing it on behalf of an employee assistance program. And I was marketing the elder care benefit. And when I told this to one of these employees, he was so excited. He says, man, I'm taking care of my mom, and this is awesome because I take so much time off during the day to go get her medication and to take her to doctor's appointments. He says, having this benefit here would be able to help me to have some work-life balance within my life, because this taking care of my mom is definitely jeopardizing me losing my job. And then there's a learning curve. So there are always new things that we can learn to grow. And there's also things that can, the curve constantly rather gets larger and larger with things that we need to learn. So here's a quick quiz. See, make sure that some people were listening to what I said. It's like 10 questions, so it's a true or false. First one is, there are between 18 and 25 million family caregivers in the United States, 10% of the adult population. You guys think that that's true, or is that false? How many people say true?
It was 17.
That's true. I threw a couple of stats at you guys, so that's I threw a couple curveballs at you. All right. Family caregivers provide 1/3 of all of the home care services in this country. True or false? It's false. Okay. The market value of the services that family caregivers provide is over $190 billion a year. I'll just give you the answer. It's true. Okay. And 60% of all family caregivers are women.
Yes.
So this is false. I think that number is higher. Yeah. 70% of family caregivers are between the ages of 40 to 59. It's true. And we have 5 more. So I know this is so fun. 65% of caregivers don't receive constant help from other family members. True. Absolutely. I'm in there. 69% of caregivers report frustration as their most frequently felt emotion. Absolutely true. And caregivers rate loss of leisure, change in family dynamics, and feelings of isolations as the most burdensome aspect of caregiving. True. Nearly 1/3 of all family caregivers say they have suffered from a prolonged depression. That's false. Okay, and the last one, you guys all know this. More people enter nursing homes because of caregivers' burnout than because of worsening of their own conditions. Absolutely true. Okay, so family conflicts. And these are just some examples that you have when, again, you know, when you're taking care of elderly individuals and you have different family members and they say, I should do this, I would do that. They play Monday morning quarterback, but they're not stepping up to the plate. And again, you know, you have an opportunity to show your true colors when you are providing assistance and care for the individuals that are in your household. So this is an example right here, and some of you guys may have experienced this or not. A brother contributes financially to the home or to the care for the care receiver. However, he also asks for a detailed account of the money spent every month, right? And so he's thinking that he's having some trust issues there, thinking that, what is he thinking that? You're using the money. You're spending it on yourself. I mean, even with my mother-in-law, like, she contributes $500 a month, to our household, and I think that's very admirable. We told her, you don't have to do it, but then after the first 6 months, we said, like, hey, where's that $500, Grandma? Because we need it, right? We needed that to function, because the cost, we weren't able to project the costs associated with it because it's very expensive. Siblings make a symbolic visit, so sometimes siblings just want to come around during holidays, or they may come around once a month or once a week, but it's not really genuine, right? They just come around just to say that they were there, and you know, and visiting. A visit may be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then they're out the door again. Relatives criticize more than help, right? I guess one of the common themes that my wife and I got from her family was, you guys are great. You're way better than me. Right? Like, I couldn't do that. So too many suggestions, and it just creates confusion. And I think that on a day-to-day, not having family members participate with what's going to go on in terms of the major decisions that you try to make for the care receiver. And with my experience with my wife, we when we first started entertaining the assisted living housing for my mother-in-law, my wife wanted to consult her siblings, and one of whom was living in Denver, Colorado, and folks who live like 10 minutes away in West Baltimore. And I said, honey, why are we talking to them? Right? Because we are the people that deal with her every day. What are they going to contribute to what's going on within our household? You know, I think it's up to us to provide the support for one another. We support each other, and we can identify what's the most appropriate setting that's going to be the most safe place for her, the most cost effective. And they can't tell us what to do and how to do it because they're not contributing within the day to day. Yes, ma'am.
In terms of family conflicts, how about unfinished business? Like my brothers, they're holding grudges and they don't want to forgive my father because their perception anyway.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's happening in our family as well. And I think that contributes to a lot of the siblings not visiting and not being involved, not being authentic. Well, I guess they are being authentic. They're not being genuine. They just don't like her. They genuinely just don't like her. And I think that because they haven't resolved some issues that they had in their younger years. And I think that it also translates to other relationships, just with friends and just burning those bridges. I think that once we become seniors, the perception, at least from where I'm standing, is that the friends that we have now we'll have then. But if you burned a lot of bridges now, no folks are going to magically appear in your life and provide friends. I mean, it's a personality kind of thing, and I didn't know it. It was like with my mother-in-law, it was like two different people, right? When she lived in her apartment, I thought, man, this woman is awesome. I would go over and have, breakfast with her and tea and so forth, and we would have 2-hour conversations. It totally changed when she moved in with us because everything was just negative, right? It was like everything was negative, and she had an opinion to say about everything, and I was like, man, I could not believe that one human being could hold so much anger for so many people and be very consistent with it. So I can only imagine like what that relationship was with these 13 children. And each one of them, dealt with it different ways. They internalized it differently. So I definitely think that it contributed to the lack of them wanting to stop by and visit. Yes, ma'am.
So I think that you bring up a really good point here. But one thing that I experienced myself, and I think that it really probably does come into play a lot, is that when an older person reaches a point, or at least with my mother, I think that as she approached her final years, I saw such an evolution in her where she recognized what was important and what wasn't important, and really got to a point where
it's really good for you to develop a strong relationship that you can always cherish for the rest of your life. There's also the love gets stronger between the caregiver and his or her children. So although my daughter, sometimes her and her grandmother don't disagree, they get along. Like last year, she was helping put the Halloween costume together for school, but this year she can't. So that's when Dad had to step in. But from that basic activity, they were able to strengthen their relationship with one another. And while she was sitting on her lap, she's telling her, having these stories, telling her about, when she was younger and what she did for Halloween, and just having that ability to connect with her, which I think was awesome. And I should be going down through here, right? And also between caregiving people, so, the spouse support for one another, as I already shared with my wife, and definitely connecting with us. And best case scenarios with the siblings and the grandchildren and grandparents as well, having an opportunity to connect with them and really just use that time as a time. Because normally, I know when I was a young boy, I had my grandparents, I would only go by to see them on holidays and just those really quarterly, if you will. This gives you an opportunity to really know them as a human being and to know what their likes are. Just something that you do can really spark a memory of something that they did in the past, and you get to really know them really deeper than before. So I just want to show you guys a short video. It's only 2 minutes long, and about someone's story about a single mom who is taking care of her dad. We'll just watch the trailer because I didn't have $2 to purchase it.
I am part of the sandwich generation. It's people who are taking care of their children and taking care.
You are also forced to start thinking about your own mortality and what that's going to look like, and you make some different choices in terms of what you do within your life if time permits. So although I'm busy and my wife is busy, we definitely make the proper choices with what we eat. Making the choice to work out and trying to be consistent with that, and encouraging each other to work out so that we can, try to live the fullest life that we possibly can. And then I think about it like, would I want my daughter to take care of me if she, if tables have turned? Like, do I want her to sacrifice her life and her experiences for me? There's something that has allowed me to think about regularly in terms of how do I want her life to be when 40 years from now? What role do I want to play with that? And I think about that often. So I try to do as much as I possibly can so I can be financially set so that she does not have to do that. But you just never know what can happen to you throughout the course of life. You can't predict it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, that's something I can totally identify with what you just said. I work out, stay as fit as I can. My daughter was in Michigan, newly married for 3 years.
Their take is the likelihood of having a maid. That's something that's definitely positive because, again, you have some support, right? You have somebody that can support you. That if you didn't have that individual, you would not be able to work and to go and make a living for yourself, to do those daily routines, getting the medication and so forth, taking care of your daily expenses, your regular expenses. Okay. On my own. So these are for single caregivers. Single caregivers feel isolated, very emotional because they feel that they are on their own and they don't have any support, right? No one to talk to at all. And so you want to have someone to talk to about it, because what I find is, again, how I talked about my wife and I being a support to each other. If I didn't have my wife, like, who would I talk to? Like, a lot of friends, when they see your number come up, they don't want to hear you talking about your elderly parent all the time. They want to talk about some other things that are interesting in your life other than your relationship with your parent or what you had to do with them today. Yeah, I gave her a bath, or we went here. Like, people don't want to hear that on a regular basis. So not having a spouse to comfort you or to be your confidant, I mean, that's folks who are on their own, and that can definitely be a lonely place to be because it's definitely emotional. Sense of having lost out on opportunities, right? Your other friends are doing other things within their lives. They're traveling, they may going on vacation. Some people may, like you said, your daughter's ready to have a child. I mean, we have we have goals, right? We have goals. We have these, I won't even say bucket list, if you will, but we just have objectives within our lives that different milestones is a better word, that we want to hit in certain times within our lives. But then when we have that elderly